We are recording.
Oh, I should sit up.
Sit up straight.
Good posture. I can't believe you're not cold.
No, I'm like sweating.
Warning.
Maybe you have coronavirus.
Is about to begin.
Sick.
If you're looking for dull, feel-good religion, or clap your hands, sit around the campfire kumbaya, you've come to the wrong place. We are dealing with toxic levels of authentic masculinity. I would say good luck, but luck is for pagans.
Welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side. So raise your glass. Adam Minahan here sitting with David Niles in studio in
the cave. We're in the cave.
Different looking studio. We're in
Plato's cave.
We're in phase 1 of 3 phases of renovating.
Trinitarian phase. I
yes.
see. Yeah.
Renovating the studio.
Yeah.
So it's coming.
We're either in the bunker, like deep within, or within. We're in Plato's cave. I'm not sure.
Within.
Yep. Oh yeah.
That terrible 70s song or whatever it was. Anyway, so we have a delicious drink. Let's actually review what we normally do on the show. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Do we have a man gear today?
We kind of do. Yes.
Okay. Excellent. I dig it.
But it's been a little bit since we've had just a get back to the basic, get to the root of the Catholic Man Show.
Yeah, back to basics.
Dave,
It's a good thing to do in Lent. Back to basics.
Back to basics in Lent. What are we doing on the show?
I have no idea. Oh, what the 3 things that we do?
Yes.
That's a totally different question.
Yes.
So the 3 things that we do every episode: 1, we open, review, and enjoy a manly beverage. Number 2, we highlight a man gear of some kind, hoping to distill a manly virtue from its essence. Such a good sound.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, we have a manly discussion on a manly topic. You should be warned. The Catholic Man Show involves high levels of manliness. If you or anyone in the listening radius is susceptible to high levels of manliness, please be warned. This show will be harmful to your health. If you thought the coronavirus was deadly, just wait until you listen to this show. If you're a weenie man and you listen to this show, you might die. That's how serious we're talking here.
To self.
To self or something.
Here, go on.
Or you just might have a conniption because the truth hurts sometimes.
Okay.
You dig?
I dig.
You dig?
I think I dig. I don't know.
So if you're one of those weenie men, I'm telling you, proceed no further.
Or with caution at least.
Hit the square button on your device.
Okay. The drink we're having tonight.
Okay, that went further than I wanted.
Yeah,
that's
I really was not wanting you to
That's what
do
I'm
that.
hearing.
The drink that we're having tonight is the Balvenie Pete. The Week of Pete, 14-year.
I broke this pin. This is broken.
Okay, good, broken. Just how I like it. Balvenie Week of Pete, 14-year. I'm really excited about it because I love Balvenie.
It smells
and
good.
I love Pete. So you combo this up.
It smells like Ardbeg.
Well, so they actually talked about. So what happens is once in the summertime and once in the wintertime, they have a week where they clean out all their distills. And so what they do is they go back.
I do the same thing with the bathroom. Once a year, I clean it, and it's great.
Well, okay. So they cleaned it, and during that week, they decided, well, we'll go back to our roots, and we will go back to the peat in Scotland.
So were they originally, I guess probably all the Scottish people were originally peaty because there's nothing else to burn. Like if they're going to be roasting the barley or
I don't know that for certain. But,
that's what they would have burned is just the peat.
So anyway, so that's what they do once in the summer, once in the winter time. The 14-year and I'm really excited about it. So what they did was they said that they got it up to the, I believe, man, is it 30, the number 30 for
like
peatiness?
Parts per million on
Yeah.
on the peat scale.
Yeah, 30 parts per million, which is similar to Lafroig or Ardbeg, and they blended it in with their Belvini, which is always a little sweeter.
Yeah.
So let me read the tasting notes for you.
Okay.
You want to do that before or after you try it?
I'm just going to do my own thing. You go ahead. I'm going to try it. That's what that means.
So yeah, it's just typical. Okay, so the nose is a gentle, sweet peat smoke, lighter floral notes, and delicate butterscotch honey. The taste, velvety and round to taste with a peat smoke balancing citrus flavors, oaky vanilla, and blossom honey. And the finish is a gentle smoke with a lingering and creamy vanilla sweetness. Because Belvini is typically like the vanilla, the sweet, the caramel.
Right.
I mean,
it's a Highland.
right.
Yeah.
Speyside.
Is it?
Speyside.
What's the difference?
Well, region.
Yeah, but really,
Speyside is typically a little.
they're basically
very
the
similar.
same. Yeah.
Anyway. So what are your thoughts? Besides good, it's good.
It's
I get
so
it.
good.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
We've covered that.
Give me a second.
Well, you've already tried it even.
I just took one sip. It
I
takes.
haven't-
Yeah. I mean,
Juan, what did you think? Did you enjoy it?
yeah. This is a great combination. You still get some of the vanilla notes, which I really like vanilla. I think most men really like vanilla. Just the smell and the flavor. I really like the smell of vanilla, but it has definitely some of the vanilla. It's very similar in a level of peatiness to Ardbeg. It's not as peaty as Lafroig, I would say,
No.
but it kind of has a little bit of iodine at the
What a
end.
treat that is.
Yeah, it's really nice. This is really nice.
It is.
And
it's
well, the one they
very
did,
well balanced.
the one they did last year was very much the same. I mean, I don't remember if it's tasted the same, but I remember that it was really well done.
Man, that is very.
So last year's was called Peat Week, and this one's called the Week of Peat.
And I'm not sure.
What are they going to do next year? I wonder. You know?
What I think actually, man, I should have done. I'm not positive on the difference, but I believe there is actually a difference. I'm not sure if it's the time of year that they do it or what. I'm not positive. I didn't have a chance to look that up. But
And I lied earlier when I said that I clean my bathroom once a year. I don't. I don't ever. I
wow,
don't.
that is really good.
It's so good, Adam.
It is so good.
It's good. Oh.
It is very well balanced. So earlier today, actually it was last night. Luke came in and he said, "Look what I found," and it was a old CD that I had, and he was like, "Can we listen to it?"
Dr. Dre or something.
No, it was Red Dirt. It was Red Dirt Country.
Okay, yeah.
From back
college.
in college, yeah. And I started thinking, I was like, what is the one CD, like one of the first CDs that you had that was kind of embarrassing that you had? Like, if you look back on it now, it's a little embarrassing that you had it. What was that for you?
So, I have only bought maybe 2 or 3 CDs in my whole life. I had.
Well, this conversation is going to go well.
Well, yeah. So I had older, very tech savvy cousins. So I was on the ground floor when it came to pirating music as a younger person who I have since repented of.
Right.
Okay. In my manhood, I've come to see that this is not the right way to acquire the things that I want. Stealing them is not the way to go. Okay.
Right.
But as just a matter of fact, this was
Maybe the better, like,
I didn't buy any of them because I knew how to get them otherwise.
okay. So what was one of the ones that you stole then illegally?
Well, I don't even know because when
just-
they're free,
you
who
just
cares?
upload
You just
everything?
like just everything. I want all of it. You
So
know.
one of
then
the
I
one-
discovered torrents, and it's like
that's a ball game.
Who cares?
Yeah.
You know.
Discography of everybody.
Yes, exactly. I'll take the discography.
Yeah. So one of the first ones that I had was Boys to Men. Do you remember
Nice.
Boys to
Oh,
Men?
Of course, I remember Boys to Men.
I had like this thought of I loved the harmony.
Yeah.
And so like
You totally could have been in a boy band.
No.
I mean,
aside from like not being able to dance,
that you can't sing,
not be able to sing or dance, I could definitely be in a boy band.
You can dance, right?
I mean,
Adam, like, they'll teach you that part.
Sure.
It's fine.
Sure. But I had like I looked back and I had when Luke showed me that I started looking back in some of my old CDs and I was like, I had like Brian McKnight. Remember that dude?
No,
like this
I don't.
like R&B soul music, Boys to Men type of stuff. And I remember like just thinking like, how did they do that with their voice? That was incredible. And so anyway, like
I'm sure that's just how they can sing. It's probably not mastered at all.
It was just really funny. Like it brought back a lot of memories as well.
Because Boyz II Men, that was like right about the time where they have figured out, hey, we don't even actually need you to be good at singing. We can actually fix that for you on the computer.
Probably so.
Because remember, Britney Spears was going around lip syncing at all of her concerts, and they had she was auto-tuned, and
I think everybody was at that point.
Well, it was coming out. That's what I'm saying is, know, so
anyway,
you could have been a boy band. You could have. Yeah.
You know what? I missed my calling.
Dang it.
What a fail.
Dang it.
So anyway, how's your Lent going? Now that you're
Lent,
back,
as my Lent is going, it's going very well.
Well, as in it's not. It's sacrificial. I mean, other than the first 2 weeks,
I mean, like,
no one cares anymore that you were in the hospital.
No. I mean,
no one.
I was just gonna say, like, well, Exodus 90. Really, Lent is just like, oh yeah, I'm still doing Exodus 90.
Right.
So
I am pumped about Easter.
Me too, man. Cannot wait to abandon the habits I've acquired.
That's what Exodus 90 is all about, right? Yeah, just bail on everything that we've learned. So when we get back, we're going to jump into a little bit of a man gear, what we've been maybe reading throughout Lent.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about the virtue of humility. We'll be right back.
So I think that Wikipedia is like, you have Lafroy, and you have Lagavulin, there's like peat and wood, and then the peatwig is like the other side of the spectrum that is like the peat and the sweet notes.
Yeah, I like this. I like how it's sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. And is that
What do you think? Do you like it? You don't like peat most of the time.
You're starting to turn me a little bit on.
Yeah?
That's the way it goes, man. The first peated whiskey I had, I thought, like,
That's terrible.
why would anybody make this? Who's buying this? This is gross. But that's because, I liked pop and Dr. Pepper and, if Scotch and pop, I don't think it can be enjoyed together. You have to train your taste buds in
When I was a
one
child, I
direction.
enjoyed child things.
Exactly. I drank as a child. Then I became a man and I put away childish drinks.
Yes.
I'm just quoting St. Paul.
Right. Now I enjoy the bitter things. The vinegar of the earth. Tastes so bad, I like it.
IPAs of 95.
Yeah.
Do
you have anything that tastes like wood? I would like to drink that,
Listen
please.
to this. My sister, Kaylin, is now being turned on to stouts and sours.
Ooh.
Nice.
Somebody who hates pretty much every beer except for water beer, light Michelob Ultra she'll drink, things like that. And she always hated dark beer. Even the thought of me bringing over dark beer, she's like, that is disgusting. Please I don't even want to smell it. And not too long ago, I brought over a Cabin Boys stout, and I was drinking it, and she was like, I said, well, do you want to try it? I mean, you should just try it.
Just try it.
And she tried it. She's like, I like this. And I go, see, I told you. It's not just because it's dark doesn't mean you're not gonna like it.
Right? Yeah, because there's a lot of sweet, candy dark beer.
Right, and
Like chocolate and coffee.
yeah,
Exactly.
When we had the talk at St. Anne's, one of the St. Michael talks, I was like, Katie, do you want a drink? I'm sure if I look deep, I can find a drink. So I went into all the rooms and I found a tap keg. And it was a brown ale. And when she looked at it, she was like, oh, this is too dark. And I was like, just try it. And she really, really liked it.
was it from Brogan or Broig?
Yeah, Brogan or Broig.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
I concur. We have to try not to look over there.
I know.
Because
we
before,
used to be
before
able to...
we were looking at the camera. In fact, we might want to turn the desk so that we can't even see it. So that Juan goes back there.
That may actually not be a bad idea.
So that, because otherwise I will look at it.
I know. I mean, I was looking at it the whole time.
Right.
You need to start trusting me.
Right. I do.
Well, it's
I
not
know
that I
that you know
don't trust
you know how to do it. But it's just that it's like the television effect. The television is on.
Also, I'm like, okay, good. We're halfway through this segment. Now I can,
You know what I was thinking? I should get a little stoplight and have like.
I don't think it really matters. Like, when the music comes on, the music comes on. The only time it matters for me is the last segment. It's like if we're trying to, especially if I'm the one on the topic, it's like, oh crap, this is the thing we got to get, been trying to get to this.
right.
Sometimes it's like, I'm sorry, we have to cut this off because we have to mention,
All right.
you know what I
This
mean?
and this, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about this later.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan. Just in case you're curious, we have Juan Posada on the buttons and Jimbo Baggins here in the studio with us.
Who is now enjoying Pete?
Yes,
Scotch.
yeah. He just said he said we may be turning him into a peated whiskey fan. So if nothing else, it has been worth it.
It has been worth all of this.
If nothing else,
we can close up shop.
right. If nobody is ever converted to Jesus by our show, at least we converted Jim to peated whiskey. So there's that.
So there's that.
That's worth a lot
Bel-
to me.
Belvini week of Pete.
Belvini? We looked this
Belvini.
up.
Belvini.
Belvini.
A week of Pete.
Can you do it with a
14.
Scottish accent?
No, I cannot. 14-year. It's just shy of $100.
Okay.
In the $90
So
range.
this is a special.
It's a treat.
Yeah. Unless you're like Jeff Bezos or something.
Right. So throughout Exodus 90, we've obviously given up TV, music.
Yeah. I gave up toilet paper.
How's that? Never mind. I don't care how that's working out for you.
I've been okay, so one thing I did, I forgot to mention this on the show last time. When I was in the hospital, I picked up knitting. Okay? Because I was just sitting there for 9 days.
Knitting or crochet?
Knitting.
Okay.
Not crochet. I don't know how to crochet.
Okay.
Pamela was there one day and she goes, "Hey, do you want to learn to knit?" And I said, "Yes, I do."
I want to do something.
Yes, that sounds nice. And actually it was kind of nice because it's very like,
I'm interested on
you,
how
you can just keep going and keep doing it, but it gives you something to do. You're productive. All of a sudden I could be productive while sitting in the chair. Okay. So anyway, recently I decided I'll just knit toilet paper. I'll just make you guys and your disposable toilet paper. I can solve this. I'm gonna knit me some nice toilet paper. It's gonna be great.
Good for you, dude.
Just like washable diapers,
Man, this
cloth
show,
diapers.
This
It's
show has
just like that.
this show-
Man gear.
This shows.
This is
yeah.
the man gear segment.
This is a terrible.
I'm knitting
segment.
my own toilet paper. That is, I don't know.
That's not it.
It's something though.
Okay, I have had an opportunity to start reading more throughout
Okay.
Exodus 90.
Yeah,
Have you
yeah.
had a chance to read it? I mean,
No,
you had.
I haven't. I have so many projects going at home, like between remodeling my bathroom, fixing the holes in the walls that I've created in an attempt to remodel my bathroom. Mm-hmm. I've been pretty busy.
It's been pretty busy. So one of the nice things about Exodus 90 that I've enjoyed is at the end of the night, after we get all the kids down, the house is finally silent. You're able to like decompress for a minute, and typically it's like, okay, let's turn on, an episode of The Office or
in the
something like
past.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And recently it's been more of both Haley and I have picked up a book and let's just read together. Not
Not out loud to
not-
each other.
yeah, but-
have you tried that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's worked out really well.
Yeah.
Um,
What have you done? What kinds of books have you done it with?
we've done a lot of like marriage books. We've done a couple marriage books.
Interesting. Okay.
And we did one where we actually weren't reading out loud, but we were reading the book at the same time. And it was on it was a finance book on getting our finances in check, which is a show that we need to do at some point. But anyway, and so I've knocked out 4 books now.
So have you guys read a fiction out loud to each other?
With our kids.
Okay. But not just to each other. Like,
Not to each other.
Yeah, okay.
No.
You should read out loud to each other The Awakening of Miss Prim.
That's one we...
It's not very long. The chapters are very doable, like that's important when it comes to reading a book together. If the chapters are too long, you just keep, I think you want a good 20-minute chapter, something like that. You could do 2 of them if you want, but you can just kind of do one in a good space of time for the day, and then maybe do other stuff or whatever.
How do you like set a goal for reading? Do you have goals for reading?
Nope.
You don't. You just try to read whenever you can.
To me, reading is a leisure, and so I don't. If I set a goal for reading, then I lose that sense of leisure in it. Now
Really?
I'm trying to finish it just to finish it. It's a work for me.
Okay.
If I have a goal to finish, now I'm working. It's not leisure. So
Interesting.
if I don't set a goal, this is what I'm reading, and whether I read 2 pages today or I read 20 pages today, it's just about enjoying those pages that I do read. Whereas if I have a goal, I'll say, no, I need to read 10 pages. I don't care if I like them or not. You see what I'm saying?
I do. What are you reading right now?
Well, I just finished Gone with the Wind.
How was it?
Very good. I loved the ending.
Okay.
It's very long.
Yeah, it's a long book.
Very, very, very long. I audiobooked it, and it's still like a little confusing. Do you say that you read an audiobook?
Yeah, that's
Andrew
a tough one.
Pudawa says yes. He says you read it with your ears.
Well, he's smarter than
And
I
if
am.
he says it, then I go with it,
Right.
But
What about a physical book? When's the last
so right
physical
now
book?
I'm reading The Confessions.
Oh, you are?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's that going?
I'm in like book 3. It's going very well.
Are you doing it in adoration?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
You're enjoying it.
And I ordered I would have brought it, but I found like $16 on eBay, a beautiful gold leaf, like leather bound. It's big too.
Oh, nice.
So it's that old fashioned where the wide margins, kind of big set type print. So it's really nice to read. It's got a really nice ribbon built, attached. So it's a very nice book to read as well. Thick pages, It's got all the feels,
Okay. Nice.
but it's going very well.
Good.
I really enjoy it. What I didn't expect is that, The Confessions, the line everybody knows is,
My heart is
my heart is
restless.
restless until it rests in you. It's like on the first page.
Yeah, it's one of the first things.
It's at the very beginning. I was expecting to, get into the book, kind of build up to it. And then it's like, oh, well, okay, I guess I'm done with this book. First page, great. Check it off, But, and also what's the other thing? There's one other thing people talk about. This when he steals the pears.
right.
It's also at the very beginning.
Right.
It's in the first book.
Right.
So the book, the Confessions is arranged in books, sort of like big chapters, kind of. I don't know how many there are because I haven't looked and I haven't finished it, but probably 6, 7. Judging by the fact that I'm in book 3. So,
Okay. There's 4 actually.
oh really?
Anyway,
Okay.
is that true?
I said 4 minutes.
Oh.
That was a 4 minute.
Oh.
4-minute mark is what Juan.
I didn't say. I actually thought that was just 4.
Okay, I don't know. Anyway,
Maybe I'm wrong.
What are you reading?
So I just finished a book on Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln,
Yeah.
and that was really interesting. It was a really interesting book.
So how many is a score?
I don't know.
20.
Is it 20?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Oh, I also just finished Robin Hood.
How was it?
Very good.
Really?
Very good.
So I just I just finished that one. and I finished another book on finance called Fire.
Okay.
I finished that maybe a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I'm almost done with this book that is spirited the topic for today on it's called Humility of Heart. And it is a book that my wife gave me for Christmas. It was one of those crazy things where I was listening to some kind of podcast or some kind of YouTube Catholic talk, and they had mentioned this book on humility. And I said out loud as I was listening to it, I think she was doing the dishes or something like that. The kids were already down in bed. I was listening to it. I was like, oh, that'd be a great book for me to listen, for me to read. And she logged it in her memory. And
I can't do that.
I can't.
I
do it.
tried to do that,
I mean,
and then the next day I
it was
thought,
phenomenal.
What was that thing that I was going to get for my wife? It was so awesome.
In fact, she did it so long ago that when I opened it, I was like, huh, what an interesting book. I had totally forgotten I even said it.
Never heard of this book. Yes, you have.
Until she told me.
You said you wanted to read it.
Right. And so it's by Father, I'm going to butcher this bad, Father Cajetan? Mary de Bergamo.
I think it's an H.
Cajetan?
Cajetan.
Married, and so he's a Capuchin
It's not English. That is not an
monk.
English name.
He was from the 18th century, and he wrote this book on humility. It's called Humility of Heart. And it's one of those books where as you're reading it, you're just highlighting every other paragraph.
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't highlight the whole dadgum book.
Right.
You know,
because then
that defeats the
why
purpose.
highlight anything?
Right. But as you can, I mean, as I go through, it's
kind of
just
like the four cardinal virtues, you know,
it's
like
very similar to Joseph Pieper's. In fact, that's another one that I just finished was a book on. It's a small treatise on human virtues by Joseph Pieper that I got from Clear Creek Monastery. It's
specifically
very small.
human virtues.
Yes. It's very
So
small.
the natural virtues.
No, it was actually I mean, it's natural virtues applied in a supernatural form.
Okay.
So anyway, I mean, like, look, here's just one page. I mean, you can see I'm like highlighting and making notes almost on.
You have arrows.
Yeah, and so anyway,
that's one thing I don't do much when I read is arrows.
Yeah. So when I was reading this, I was like, man.
Juan wants you to show the camera.
Okay, sorry. And as I was reading this, I was like, man, we've got to talk about this.
I think he wants you to show that camera. You're not showing the right camera.
Okay, sorry.
There you go.
So as I was reading this, I was like, Dave, we've got to do a topic on humility. And you go, I've already done it. And I went back and looked. We have not done it.
Yeah, I could have sworn that we did this.
So when we get back, we're going to talk about the virtue of humility. And I think it'll be very interesting. I don't know. It may be terrible. We'll see.
Who knows?
But it's all about the truth anyway. So
yes.
We'll be right back.
You said you had a man gear, so I give you the 4 minutes. So I was like, if you're gonna talk about the man gear,
I think
about the book.
I think that you sing the book as the man gear.
Oh, okay.
I didn't see your 4.
Well, that's when you thought it was.
Mas, señor.
I didn't see that. I didn't see you.
Un
doing
poquito.
that.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear that one? I said Spanish. I said some Spanish.
Cajetan is the name.
I wonder if he is a settler
Cajetan.
of Cajetan.
Man, I'm so terrible with names, like pronouncing.
Did you get it,
names.
Juan?
Nope.
Settlers of Catan.
Yes. Before you said it, I got it.
Is it when I said the word settlers? Because when you say the game, it's not Settlers of Catan. Like, what are you, a nerd? It's Settlers. It's totally Settlers of Catan.
Nice.
Nobody says Settlers any other time, unless you're playing that game.
Okay.
That is a thing.
Fair
it's
enough.
a real thing. And
Robin Hood, I really like it too.
yeah, it was so awesome. The ending was also good in that book.
So here's what.
And Maid Marian, where is she? She's nowhere. Like, she's an offhand remark that in the book that, oh yeah, she's the one. She's like my gal, kind of. But he never goes to see her. There's no interaction between the two. They never get married. You know.
What I really liked was there's a deep analogy there on the second coming, and when the king comes, and how when the King Richard comes,
The lion-hearted.
everybody just bows to him, kind of like even the all the bad ones, even though there were a lot of bad guys, everybody just like there's like okay, here we know that.
You mean when he comes to town or when he comes to the forest?
When he comes back to town, or maybe we're a different version, but the one I have is like there's this big scene coming. There's a lot of bad guys, and when he comes, everybody just like bows down to him, even though they know that if they do it, it's game over. And I just thought of like the second coming of Christ and how it's just like when he comes.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Everything is game over.
I just finished it. So he like rode into town, rode into.
Maybe we had read different because there's different versions.
Yeah, but with the different versions wouldn't include like entirely different scenes. You wouldn't think.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
I would like to cut this conversation off.
All right. Good job. I'm proud of you.
I got an attaboy from Juan. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
And it was for telling him to shut up.
Yeah.
Juan, shut up. Well done, Adam. I'm really proud of you for that.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Sitting here with David Niles, Juan on the buttons, Jim checking in on us, making sure that no one is breaking into the door as our professional bodyguard. If someone did, they would be in major pain.
Yeah, welcome to the Hurt Locker.
Yes. We're going to talk about humility today. We're drinking a little bit of Balvenie Week of Pete 14 year. We just got done talking about different books that we've read. Specifically, Humility of Heart is one that I'm finishing, which is what's going to kind of spearhead the topic tonight on the virtue of humility. One that we have not talked about. Do you want to go ahead and get out all of the jokes
No,
on how...
No, I'm going to disperse them throughout.
Yeah. Okay.
It's better that way.
Okay.
It really is.
It really is. I agree with you. So, humility.
Yes.
How would you define humility? Like, what is the typical... Like, if someone said, what is humility... How would you define it?
I would say that humility is recognition of the truth of oneself. It's just, I think, recognition of reality.
Yes.
An appropriate assessment of reality.
Yeah, I think that that's a better definition than what a lot of people would say. Insofar as I think that a lot of people would say it's not thinking about yourself, but
it's
as much
not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. That's not humility either.
It can be.
Well, no, because you could think less of yourself, but still think wrongly of yourself,
right.
Even though you're thinking wrongly of yourself less.
Right.
Or you could think of yourself all the time and think of yourself completely accurately.
Yes.
And that is still completely humble.
Right. I agree.
So
that's true. I think though it's even more than that. Like as I was reading this book, it like was very eye-opening to me that it's not just about thinking of yourself less or thinking of other people more.
Yeah.
But it's this understanding of God, the Creator, who is up in heaven before all of the saints, before the beautiful Blessed Virgin Mary, before all the choirs of angels who are all there singing holy, 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 towards God, who is the Creator of all heaven and earth. And all of us, here in this room and everybody listening to this.
Yeah.
And he's created me, who not only created me, but he like carved my name on his hand.
This is a very selfish example so far, but keep going.
Okay. Sorry. I'm just saying like me or like the person, not me personally.
Guys,
but
it's about
me. This is all about me. In humility,
we're
this
talking
is all about
about
me.
humility.
Right. But like, God who has carved your name on his hand, who has counted every hair on your head.
Yeah.
He
carved your name on his hand?
Yeah, that's what it says in the Bible.
Oh, does it?
Do you not read the Bible?
No.
Is that something you don't do?
No, I'm way past that.
Who's counted every hair on your head, and And in order, in this deal, he has said, in order for you to live a good life, in order for you to be truly happy, you obey me. Everything that you do is a gift from me. Mm-hmm. Everything good that you've ever done has been because I have given it to you. Mm-hmm. And we have perverted that throughout all of humanity. We've struggled with self versus the denial of self,
right,
to the point of where God said, okay, fine, I'm going to come down on earth, and the God man is going to give you, humble himself on earth and say, okay, I'm going to give you an example of how to live. Imitate me. He says, imitate me, for I am meek and humble of heart. And in this process of imitating Jesus, of imitating the God man, it's the process of theosis, of becoming like God.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is by imitating Jesus, who said, be humble. And it's interesting how what he did with the apostles is he gave them all this knowledge, right? He gave them all this is crazy. As you read through the Bible, you're like, wow, what all did the apostles know? Because it's clear that they knew a lot more than what the Bible is
what they wrote down.
They wrote down. But he also made sure to show them that this knowledge is only for the benefit to serve others. It is not for your own good.
Right.
It is not for you.
It's not just for you to feel special.
It's not for you to put yourself above everybody else, or to say look how great I am, look how smart I am. It is only for the benefit of loving somebody else.
Yeah, because you're going to have a platform someday, and I want you to share it with everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's just interesting how in this process of this theosis, in this process of divinization, is that correct?
Yeah,
divinization,
sure.
Of becoming like God, he gave us this blueprint in the Bible of the only way you can do this is be meek, which meek is a very interesting word. It's a virtue that people think it means to be a doormat. No, all it means is being able to control your strength and know when to use it. Mm-hmm. And to be humble of heart.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's something that, as you read through the blogosphere, as I read through the Twitters and all of the social medias, you see all these guys, you see all these people who are typing things that, even though they're correct, maybe they're right mm-hmm. in what they're typing, but they're not doing it out of love. They're not doing it because
you see that all the time.
To love your brother, because Christ died for the person that you're tweeting to. Christ died for everybody, and just because you may be right, the way you portray it, that doesn't mean that you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's something that I think that we really struggle with. I struggle with that because as I continue to learn more, I struggle with the ego of listen, I have been reading a bunch of things. I've been struggling, or reading all the church fathers. I've been doing all these things, and I've come to know a lot more about the faith, and in doing so, when I'm talking to maybe my family members or friends or coworkers or whoever it is, I kind of almost have this no, I know what I'm talking about.
Let me tell you.
Listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I have words, and they are great words.
In fact, go get a pen.
Right.
And some paper.
This is
a
gonna
lot
be,
of
this,
paper.
This is going to be
You're
great.
Have a lot of things to write down.
Right, but that's not what Jesus said. I mean, that's not how Jesus did things. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's very frustrating on my, I think on everybody's end of denying yourself, even of knowing that even though you may know more, even though you may be the smartest man in the world, it's only a gift from God. There's nothing that you can do that you did on your own.
Right.
All the great things that you accomplish in this world is nothing without God. Mm-hmm. It's only because of God.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this recently, about how I need help from God to do everything. Mm-hmm. I need to allow him to help me with everything. And then it occurred to me that I need his help in order for me to allow him to help me with everything. You know, it's like I can't even let him help me without his help in doing that. Right. And it's like a infinite regression of I need his help
because it's a circle.
I need his help in order for me to allow him to help me.
Right.
You know, and it's like such a profound poverty of my own power. You know, it's just like this profound receptivity that I must have, just because I'm totally nothing.
Right.
Totally nothing. It's like, what can I do? The answer is nothing. I can do nothing. Christ does things through me.
Right, and you have to be open to that, open to that grace.
But you can't even be open to it unless he helps you.
Right.
But the thing is, he is always willing and there to help you. You know, and he has given you already that gift to say yes. You already have that gift. He's given it to you, and he is helping you, and some people still frustrate that work of Christ in the world through themselves.
Right, and the goal is to be so receptive to the point of when somebody sees you, they say, this man has read the life of Christ. This man is, if I had to picture Jesus, like walking with Jesus today, this guy is as close as I can imagine walking with Jesus today. Right. And Christ has given us this gift. Like he wants us all to do this. This is what he says in the Gospels. He says, you know, go and baptize all, you know, in the name of the Father, Son, and make disciples of men. You know,
of all nations.
Of all nations. And so he's wanting us to go do this. And the only thing that's stopping us is our pride. So pride is the ultimate thing that blocks us from virtue.
And pride maybe is certainly a big thing. Fear could be another one. I mean, there are many things that could stop us.
So why do you think it's fear? So the reason why it's fear is because you're worried about, or at least for me, this is me personally. The reason why I'm always fearful about something is because I'm worried about what other people are going to think about me.
Yeah, it could be. You're afraid of bodily harm. You're afraid of losing comfort. You're afraid of. I mean, it could be a lot of things.
But it's never about like it's not the fear of the Lord. It's never like
no. I mean like a bad kind of fear.
Right, but what I'm saying is like if you do it the right way, like it's the fear of the Lord. Like no. I want to make sure that I'm doing this for Christ. I don't care what other people are going to do to me or think about me.
I was just saying that there's other things other than pride that could stop you from going and making disciples of all nations, as you were saying.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, but yeah, so I think that the fear of the Lord though is so important. And like, you know, even like I'm nervous a lot of times whenever we go on like maybe other podcasts or radio shows because I want to make sure that I say the right thing. I want to make sure that I bring people closer to Christ. But why is that? Is it because I want them to think that I know what I'm talking about, that I'm smart, or that what I'm saying is intelligent, or you know whatever it is, or is it because I want to bring them closer to Christ and bring them closer to heaven? And it's not about me. It's about like, I just want you. I have this great gift of Christ. I talk to him. I know who he is, and I want you to know who he is. And that's the struggle I think that a lot of people have.
Totally.
All right, we'll continue.
We'll be right
this.
back. You gonna get into any of these quotes?
Yes. Sorry.
Because we should that one that you sent in a text message. We should talk about that. That was an interesting side of humility.
That was very good.
Which one is it?
It was about sorrow.
Okay.
Sorrow of your own sins.
Okay. We'll do that at the end.
Okay. Because that's just an interesting point about.
Right.
Was that about humility?
Yeah. I mean, it was from this book.
Okay. I'm going to bring this candle closer to me just so I can have a little bit extra warmth.
Are you cold? Are you really cold?
I'm cold. I mean, like...
Are you cold?
I got a jacket on.
Yeah, you have a jacket.
I've got
are you cold? Like, I'm not cold at all.
Minor goosebumps. Oh, that fan is blowing on me. I'm like sitting here in the cold air that's blowing.
Okay.
I'll figure it out.
All right, let's keep going.
Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan. We're talking about humility. As the expert on the subject, I feel like I should offer a little something. The word humility comes from the word in Latin meaning of the earth. Is it humos, Juan? H-U-M-O-S? Mm-hmm. Yes, so that means earth. That's why hummus is my favorite snack. There you go.
That was a good joke.
That's not a joke.
Oh, okay.
You're welcome.
Okay. I think...
I do like hummus. I would eat bark if you put hummus on it.
Really?
Maybe.
If
the bark was not too thick.
How do you enjoy the scotch as the time has gone?
I have enjoyed it exactly as it should be.
Nice.
In accordance with reality.
Nice.
Yes.
Very good.
According to its goodness. In all humility.
Sweet.
Yes. Yeah, a little bit of that.
A little sweetness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So I think that also in humility, I think there's, as we do talk about other, other people and not necessarily about yourself, I think that it's interesting. There's so much pain and suffering in this world, right? There's so much, even
I cause
today,
a lot of it.
I am suffering big time throughout this episode.
So many fools in the world.
Right.
I pity the fool.
And I mean, even this virus, there's so many things that are going on that
the what?
The virus is.
The virus.
Yeah.
I thought you said fire. Virus. The virus.
There's so much that's struggling. We're always worried about what, these things sometimes turn us inward. Where it's like, what do I need? What do I need to do? What should people provide me?
Yeah.
And throughout. It's so crazy as you read St. Paul and you're reading like Romans, you're reading Corinthians, and he's just talking about so much of brotherly love and talking about how he is not worried about himself at all. And there's so many things that he's done and he's struggled with, shipwreck and like, dude, he got bit by a freaking venomous snake.
Yeah,
he was just fine. He was like, "Don't worry. It'll be just fine."
Right.
And they were like, no. People die from this. You get swolled up and you die.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'll be just fine."
He's like, "I'm already swole spiritually."
Right.
I'm so swole.
But it blew my mind the other day. Exodus 90 has been very, very great for me, is also reading the Bible, because I've had an opportunity to read more of the Bible. And like in Romans 9, he talks about, to the point of, he says, "I wish that I could be cut off from Christ if it's to save a brother." He talks about like, I am willing to be cut off from the grace of Christ if it means to save my brother. And I thought, as I was reading that, and I was in unison with this book that I was reading, I was just like, holy cow, this is a different kind of humility that I can't fathom. It's hard for me to even wrap my mind around this idea of, I'm willing to separate myself from Christ if it means I get to get you to heaven.
That's what I think St. Teresa of Avila said, the same thing, that she would be willing to go to hell if it meant the salvation of others. And the will of God be done.
And obviously,
which to me, it's like, I guess I'm not there. Because for me, it's like, yeah, I want to save other people.
But I really want to get to heaven.
But really,
right.
Before I do that, I want to make sure where's my ticket on the bus ride? Okay.
Right.
Once I have my ticket, maybe I'll help pass out some other tickets, and maybe that's wrong. Maybe probably, because look at what St. Paul and St. Teresa of Avila are saying,
Right.
But,
I mean, he even got,
to me, it's like, how can you, I don't know. I have problems with like, you realize the good of heaven and you're forfeiting it. I understand, because it's out of charity,
right?
But still,
of your neighbor.
But still, and what they say is hypothetical, because they know that's not the way it works. But it's an expression of love.
But he's even willing, like in 1 Corinthians, when he's talking about these guys who are been eating meat, and beforehand that that in Corinth that they're pagan traditions, and they were laying up these idols, and so they didn't want to eat meat until they sacrificed it to these idols and all this stuff. And Paul and all these guys come in who have a lot more knowledge, who have a lot more understanding of what, of Christ and all of his glory.
Yeah.
And they say, no, you don't have to do that anymore. Christ is the ultimate sacrifice. He's done it all already.
Mm-hmm.
And even though they've said that to them, they weren't ready, like in their conscience, they weren't ready for that knowledge. And they still felt like they didn't want to eat this meat. And they felt like it was going against their conscience. And St. Paul goes back and says, like, guys, even if they are struggling with this and it's against their conscience, even though you tell them it's okay, this isn't a life or death deal. He says, no, give it up. It's not that bad. Become vegan. Basically he says, give up bacon, become vegan if it upsets your brother's conscience.
Mm-hmm.
Because it means nothing if it doesn't mean that they get to go to heaven. And so, like, I was just sitting there reading this, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, this is ridiculous. Like, this guy is willing to give up bacon for anybody if they're saying, like, I don't feel good about eating bacon anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking, like, man, this is a different kind of brotherly love. This is a different kind of friendship that, not necessarily just for the bacon, but just this understanding of, like, I'm willing to sacrifice whatever, even if I'm right. Even if I know that I'm right, even though if Christ has revealed this to me and I have this relationship with Christ and I'm talking to him and he's talking to me and I know in prayer, this is okay. This is an okay thing. And I relay this information to these people and they say, like, even in their conscience, they can't quite grasp it. And he says, okay, that's fine. He says, don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't force it on them. If it goes against their conscience, just don't cause your brother to fall.
Right.
And, like, man, I was sitting there reading, and in contrast, like I said, in unison with this, these two verses were, like, mind-blowing to me, because I couldn't grasp. We talk about brotherhood all the time. We talk about true friendship and this idea of, making sure that your brother, you're getting your friends and your wife and everybody else to heaven. And I thought, man, I don't know if I have, like, I don't know if I'm willing to say, like, I'm willing to be cut off from Christ to make sure.
That's kind of what I say, because I'm not willing to be cut off from Christ.
What about, even at a smaller level, what about bacon?
Well, I mean, that's different. I mean, but I'm not willing to be cut off from Christ. I'm not willing to do anything.
But I mean, St. Paul is saying that in Romans 9.
But I think it's hyperbole.
Yeah, it may be hyperbolic.
I don't think he's actually willing to be cut off from Christ.
But he's saying he loves them so much,
right,
that he's willing to.
That's what I'm saying. That
it's going back to,
he's making a statement of charity and love, and it's an expression, I think, because I don't think he's actually willing to be cut off from Christ, because that's the only thing that matters.
Right. So I think that it goes back to, like, at the beginning of this episode or beginning of this topic, we said, it's about understanding truth and reality and thinking of yourself less, understanding that God is the creator and you are not God.
It's not about thinking about yourself less. It's about thinking about yourself correctly.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. But understanding that God is the creator and that you can do nothing that is good without his grace.
Yeah.
And once you receive his grace, St. Paul even talks about, like, he has this anguish. He has this anguish that that people are struggling, people are suffering, and people don't understand Christ's glory and Christ's grace that can fill your life. And so he says he has this anguish that he can't get to all these people. That's why he's traveling all over the place. It doesn't matter if his ship was wrecked. It doesn't matter if he was, they were all sick. It didn't matter if he was getting bit by a snake. He didn't care. He was just trying to get to all these people because he had this heart, like this struggle in himself of I can't let this be it can't be my own thing. It has to be. I have to tell other people about this. And I was just thinking, like, man, when was the last time that I was driven to such compassion about somebody else who was less fortunate than me? Or when was the last time that I cared so much that I was willing to go that far with, as St. Paul did, to be able to tell them about Christ, tell them about my relationship with Christ.
So let me ask you this: how does a person grow in humility?
I think so. There's several ways of growing in humility. Actually, Saint Benedict has 12 steps basically of how to grow in humility, and Saint Thomas actually talks about it in the Summa. I actually looked that up. So you can go and look this up, but I mean, a lot of it is fearing the Lord, understanding that God is the creator, and that you can do nothing out of his, that is good without him. Also, one of the things that it says in this book, it says, remind yourself daily that you're going to die, your mortality.
Right. Yeah.
Because
memento mori.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And so another thing is silence and solitude was another thing that Saint Benedict said. He said also
because you encounter yourself in silence
and you understand. Yeah, and God speaks in whispers.
Right.
So confess your sins daily. Understand, like examining your conscience. Understand where you're falling.
I think that's one of the biggest ones. Practical things you can do is do a better job examining your conscience daily,
so they also
or multiple times a day.
Patience is one of the biggest things of growing in humility. Embracing the suffering patiently, and being able to obey obediently, even if it's not something that you want to do. So anyway, this book, Humility of Heart, is phenomenal. I think it goes great throughout this Lenten time. I think that we just gotta love our neighbor. We gotta love each other, so that way we can, get everybody to heaven and see this glory that God has.
Yeah. Amen.
All right, this whiskey was awesome as well.
Totally.
One of the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
So should we keep going so you can finish those 12 things?
There was so much that I wanted to talk about. I realized as I was going, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to finish any of this.
Because you didn't actually get to any of the stuff that was on your email.
Yeah, I
don't think that you did. You bring up any of it?
Yeah, a little bit of it.
Okay.
And I talked way too much in that episode.
Is it worth a part 2? Or is it worth just...
No, I don't think it's worth a part 2. Sorry, dude. I didn't mean to talk that much.
Well, we could do a part 2 because I don't know what you actually did talk about in here.
The wave leaks don't look too... Well, they look pretty dominating, actually. I'm sorry, dude.
That's okay. It's your topic. I mean, you're the one who's prepared.
I don't know if I was prepared. I just got on this roll.
Obviously, you were prepared.
Well, I had just been reading about this stuff, like between like.
That's what I'm saying.
Reading about St. Paul and I was just like, the other night I was sitting there and I was almost in tears. I literally was like moved to this compassion of like understanding like this man.
I don't think you talked about any of this stuff.
I talked about some of it. I talked about patience a little bit at the very end.
Dude, you were like really on fire, but at the same time, I think you were like a little bit all over the place.
I'm sure I was.
But I mean, it was good because he was passionate.
Totally, it was a great conversation. I mean,
Well,
it was like great content.
It couldn't have been a great conversation because
No, it was.
I dominated.
It was great content. I mean,
Good content. I'm not saying that it was no good content. I'm saying that I don't think you were following the structure that you said you were going to.
but that's okay.
That's okay.
The spirit moves.
I think you for a little bit you were speaking tongues, bro.
Maybe so. Maybe if I go back and listen to it, I'll be like, maybe we should not. Maybe we should not post this.
Maybe we can still understand you.
Yeah, maybe I was
We just have to have a translator.
because
Officially.
yeah. I'm sorry.
But Paul and eating of the meat. For some reason, I remember that backwards. I remember saying that you could eat it.
I think
No,
that's what he was saying.
That's what I'm saying. You can eat it. He was saying like you can.
But he's saying if it's going to give scandal to somebody, then don't But you can, but it's not worth giving scandal.
If it's giving scandal and it's going against like their conscience that they have like built up, it's not like it's not that big of a deal. Don't do something that is going to cause scandal to your brother to the point of they're going to lose, lose what they believe in.
Well,
Even if it's something that's good, even though it's something that's right. Even if you know it's okay. And so, like, that's what I was like. I literally was. I was in adoration. A few days ago, and I was just sitting there reading that. I was like almost in tears because I was just thinking, like, man, St. Paul has got to the point. Like, I am not even close to what St. Paul is in what he's talking about this.
Well, let's finish these 12.
Okay. Okay, so...
But one needs to...
Just here, right? No more buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, so we're going to finish these last 12 steps to humility by St. Benedict
Yeah, because we just finished...
for the podcast.
And obviously, I went a little crazy. Juan was like, listen, dude, you were almost speaking in tongues. And obviously, I got a little carried away, which I apologize. There was just so much that I wanted to talk about. And,
I was really enjoying it.
Well...
I was enjoying your passion.
What's gonna end up happening is I'm gonna go back and listen to this and be
Don't
embarrassed.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I'll be embarrassed. But you know why?
Don't.
Because I'm just thinking about
Humility.
what other people are thinking about me, and not like, So
You're gonna grow
you know
in
what?
humility.
You guys can just think whatever you want of me.
Yeah. You know what?
I just want you guys to love Jesus. That's all I care about.
One thing I've learned about myself is the more I grow in humility, the bigger my biceps get. Can you believe
Really?
that? Can you believe that?
You're that low in humility.
That's how humble I am.
Wow.
Look at that. And that's my left arm.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really incredible.
That's it. That's one word for it. Okay, yeah. So Saint Benedict has these 12 steps.
That joke was for Jim. That was for you, Jim.
That's for you, Jim. Real quick before we go to these 12 steps, I did want to talk. I did want to say one thing real quick because in this book it was something that like kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
He said something that's worse. Pride of the poor is worse than pride of the rich. Which, when I read that, I was like, that's an interesting thought.
Like being proud of your poverty?
Or just being proud, like, even though I'm poor, look how I'm, almost like the Pharisees, like, look how I'm suffering, look how I'm, I don't have anything, and I'm doing the. But
I'm going to be honest, I don't think I know anybody like that who's like really proud of how poor they are.
Or their struggle, or whatever. Anyway.
Okay. I have maybe encountered people.
I've encountered people who are like, I've struggled.
Who are like
so
real
much.
pessimistic, and they are like you can tell they kind of enjoy complaining. People who like to complain. Mm-hmm. Like, oh well, the other day this bad thing, and it's like you're excited about all these bad things happening, so you can complain about it. You love complaining about how terrible things are for you, don't you?
Right.
I think everybody knows people like that. Jim, I'm not looking at you. I'm not.
Well, you are.
Well, I mean, I'm physically looking at him, but not metaphorically.
Okay, good. So anyway, I thought that was interesting because they're, the rich, they say it's easier to be humble in adversity than in prosperity, and so if you're doing, things that are happening good are from the gift of God. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have anything, but yet you're still proud of who you are, like what you are doing.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
Pride is a complicated word, especially in English and especially in maybe America, because we use the word pride in a good way sometimes, like,
right.
Be proud of your work.
Be proud of.
I'm
proud
American. I'm proud to be an American. Like, I'm proud of the way I behaved. Take pride in your work. That's something. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, that particular word, because you should be proud. You should do things with pride. Mm-hmm. Do them the right way, and you should be proud. I hope that you're proud. Like when you do your examination of conscience at the end of the day, I hope you're proud of your behavior for the day. Mm-hmm. But not that it was full of pride.
Right. And that's the thing about humility, right? It's like, Lord, give me humility. And then, you start becoming humble and you're like, look, I'm humble. And as soon as you say I'm humble, you're no longer humble,
right.
But you're prideful.
I mean, at least that's the way it is for a lot of people.
For a lot of, not you.
Not for me.
You're the exception. But it's this
right.
this terrible thing of.
It's like me and Moses. because Moses, he wrote the first 5 books of the Bible. And in Genesis, you will encounter a verse that says, Moses was the most humble man that ever lived. And he wrote that about himself. It's pretty funny.
He became vain.
It's pretty funny. No, in all humility, he wrote it. He was the most humble man who ever lived. And thus, it was true.
But that's the thing about humility, right? Is as soon as you start thinking, look how humble. Look what I'm doing. Look at these things that I've the vices that I've conquered. Look at all these things that I've started doing. I'm no longer saying these words that I used to say. I'm no longer doing these things that I used to do.
Yeah, because these are profound half-truths. Because maybe you have conquered all these vices, but and if you say, look at the things that I have done, you should say, look at the things the Lord. Look at all the vices the Lord has conquered in me. Because once again, you didn't do them. It was all. It's all from
JC.
God.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's get to these 12.
Okay, so
how to grow in humility? Because just actually briefly, because when we talked about humility is like thinking about yourself less.
Mm-hmm.
Over this episode, I was thinking, how is it that people have associated that? And I think that as you grow in humility and you think about yourself more, maybe, because I don't think that it's actually, I don't think you can grow in humility by thinking about yourself less. I think that you will grow in something, that's not going to ever grow you in humility. You actually need to sit there and ponder yourself. You must intentionally think about yourself in order to grow in humility. So you must gaze upon yourself with true eyes to see who you really are. That's why silence is one of those things, because you encounter yourself. If you're pushing yourself aside, no, I'm not going to think about myself, I'm only going to think about other people, you will never grow in humility. You might grow in charity, but you will not grow in humility, because you must think about yourself, so that you can think and learn to think rightly about yourself. And so as you grow in humility and understand, and you come to understand your poverty of virtue, your poverty of anything, of all things good, and that it is only Christ who can accomplish these things through you, you begin to have room now in that realization of your poverty. Now you have room for more charity. And so you begin to think of other people more, because you understand the truth of yourself. But first, one must come, if you try to think of yourself less, as the saying goes, you'll never actually come to know yourself the right way.
Yes, so I think that as long as you understand that when you're saying you're thinking of yourself, you're realizing that you can do nothing except through Christ. It's the moment that as soon as you say, I have conquered this sin, and I'm no longer struggling with the virtue of, or the vice of, whatever it is, X. Mm-hmm. What happens? You end up
grow in pride. You grow in pride,
and you end up falling again.
Right.
As soon as you start thinking of that, you end up falling. Like whatever that vice is that you think that you've conquered. As soon as you start like thinking that I have done this, you end up falling. I mean, that's why in confession we've all said the same sins over and over again.
Yeah.
And we think as we go, because in confession you're supposed to give a true act of contrition that I'm no longer going to do this, and you're resolved to say I'm not going to do this any longer.
The near occasion of sin, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, that's why the way is narrow, because if you deviate even a little bit from the path, you quickly find yourself no longer on the path, because the path is narrow.
Right.
The way to hell is wide. Mm-hmm. There are many, many, many ways,
and this
to find hell, but the way to heaven is narrow. Mm-hmm. So you must stay straight and true. And so, like, even though you may have conquered that vice, that is maybe true, you have to stay firm in that reality, stay grounded in the earth, in the dirt, that I didn't conquer that. Mm-hmm. I am nothing but the dirt. It was Christ who conquered that in me.
Right, and I think that's what I was trying to get at the very end, was basically, was saying, like, because of Christ, because he has worked through me, mm-hmm. that I've done, like, I deserve none of this. I deserve none of this, the things that have happened to me. And because he has worked through me, I'm working through this theosis of becoming like him, and because I'm doing this, and because I'm coming closer to the truth, because I'm coming closer to Christ himself, it is infectious. I have to tell you about it because it is who I now am.
Yeah.
I'm now becoming like God. I'm now becoming, so much to the point of like, I want you to see not me, but Christ.
Yeah. And so this is very important, because if you think that you're very, very special, then of course Christ loves you. Of course he would love you. You're awesome. Why wouldn't he love me? Look at me.
Well, you're conforming him to you, not you to him.
But if you first realize that your own poverty and just the depth of your brokenness,
right,
then the fact that Christ loved you all of a sudden becomes this miracle. How could Christ love me? What have I done? Mm-hmm. But if you have this inflated view of yourself, then all of a sudden Christ's love is not so unexpected. It's not so miraculous. Like, well, yeah, I'm awesome. Of course he loves me. I mean, look at me. Ecce homo. Mm-hmm. Am I right? Okay. You should see me with my shirt off. I look fantastic. If that's your own view of yourself, that might be true. I mean, but Christ's love for you is not such a big deal. But if you look at yourself the way things really are, and you say, wow, I am just broken in every way. Now the fact that Christ loves you is this, monumental. It's a miracle that he would love you. Why would anyone love me? Right. There's nothing to love in me other than the fact that he is in me.
Right.
Okay? And so if you realize that, now all of a sudden Christ's love becomes profound. Mm-hmm. Because if you are truly great, then the distance between you and him is small.
Right.
Even though, I mean, it's still infinite.
Infinite.
But you see what I mean.
Right.
You've shortened the distance between yourself and infinity, so to speak. Okay.
Wrap your mind around that.
Right. Okay, but that's why Christ's love is so important in us, because he has come all the way to our brokenness.
Right.
And he has filled it with himself.
And he humbled himself to become us.
Right.
Because the God-man became human to give us this model of like, listen, I humbled myself and became one of you.
Yeah, that's why it's important that the word humility means dirt, because God brought himself into the dirt. Mm-hmm. He brought himself down to the dirty in order to find us and to make us so that we might participate in that theosis that you mentioned.
It's beautiful,
that we might be lifted up out of the dirt. Mm-hmm. We are made from the dirt. God formed man out of the dirt. Mm-hmm. And then he breathed himself. So it's like the dirt and humility. If you don't understand the dirt, and that we were made from it, and that he has snatched us and lifted us, exalted us above what we are. Like this is humility, knowing that I am nothing. I'm profoundly nothing. And that even Mary would have viewed herself as being perfect. A perfect creation, perfect in her resignation to the divine will. Even she was nothing but a worm compared to God. And she's the greatest of all of us. But she was still just a pitiful thing compared to God's glory. That's humility, knowing that we are what we are. And that doesn't mean that we should have a negative view of ourselves.
No, because the virtue of hope shows that, like, listen, God has given us all these things.
Right. It's not like I should say, "Oh, I'm worthless.
Right.
I'm not worthy of it." It's like, no, you are worthless and you're not worthy of anything.
But Christ loves you.
But Christ has died for us. He became one of us.
Right. And loves you.
It's not about putting yourself down, and just like hiding, wearing a black veil. Everyone's like, "Don't look at me, I'm hideous."
Right.
That's not what we're talking about here. Christ made you.
Right.
He loves you. This is great.
He died for you.
It's great. But you're broken, and but it's all still great.
Right. I had this misconception when I was younger of like, okay, when I was like first going to confession, I was like trying to think of like, the sins that I committed. And I thought like, okay, well, maybe all of my sins only amounted to like maybe one scourging at the pillar.
Yeah.
I had this like warped view of understanding of, thinking like, no. Maybe all I did was make him suffer a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't understand that. No. As a perfect being, God, one thing totally nullifies that,
Right.
And makes it like where he has to die for you infinitely.
Right, yeah, because God is an infinite being.
Good.
Even the slightest, the tiniest venial sin that you could ever think of is still bears an infinite penalty because it's against an infinite God. So what's like 0.000000001 times infinity? Infinity.
Right.
Because it's times infinity.
Let's go to the 12.
One
Okay,
is
one's cutting
whipping
us
the
off.
lash. He's whipping the lash. Anyway, I just wanted to get that
Yeah,
point about
I think-
thinking less about yourself. It's not about. It's because when we realize who we are, we think about ourselves less. Only because we now have more room for charity, and charity draws our attention towards the other.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It draws us. It becomes so infectious that you can't help but telling people about
Right.
it.
You learn through charity to see Christ in other people, which is very difficult sometimes, especially with some people.
And it's hard.
Certain people make it really hard to see Christ in them.
It's so hard.
I mean,
that's
and that's
why
just
it's
that's just true.
incredible that JP2 could see Christ in everybody.
Yeah. Well, that's because he had a lot of practice.
Right. It was
And
phenomenal.
also, he was really holy. So,
Super holy.
more
Okay.
grace.
So the
He had
12.
more, Adam. He had more grace than you. So it's like, what can you do? It's not
well,
fair.
It's
not
not
fair.
like he wasn't he was sacrificing.
I'd
a lot
like
more.
to see what JP2 could have done with the measly amount of grace that I get. Okay.
I think it's because I think it's more on
I'm just kidding, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
And now everybody else knows I was kidding too, because Jesus already knew I was kidding. But I'm afraid about all these other people who didn't know I was kidding.
Okay, so the 12 steps for humility.
Why don't you start
that
over
Saint
it with
Benedict.
number one, because it was so long time ago. It was so long ago that we
Fear of
even
the
mentioned-
Lord.
Fear of the Lord.
Number 1, fear of the
He
Lord.
does scare me sometimes. So
It's because I love him so much. I don't want to not do what he asks.
the other day I was in adoration, hiding behind the pews.
No, you are not.
No,
You are not.
I wasn't.
Okay. Okay, number 2. Not my will, but your will, O Lord.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the conforming of my, I want your will, God, to conform to what I want. Like, I want these things, and I want you to give them to me. I want you to be like this spiritual ATM, like where I ask for these things and you give them to me. No. It's not that. It's that God knows exactly what's going to make you perfectly happy and bring you closer to Him in eternal life.
Yeah.
And so He knows what you need to do. You have to conform your will to His, which is the ultimate toughest thing. I mean,
It is. Well, that's what I was going to say. Is that really, if you do this, it's scary. It really is scary.
Yeah, because
I have been very afraid. There have been moments where I was praying, saying, "Yes, Lord, I want absolutely your will." But I realized there was like this one thing that I was afraid. Well, what if God asked me to do this? Mm-hmm. Like what if He asked me to quit my job,
right,
and go full-time ministry? I mean, or something like that. I don't want to do that.
right.
And that's one of those things like, well, if He called me to do that, I would say, I know what I would do. I was like, well, we need to be real patient here and discerning, be real prudent before we do anything. And I just got to be absolutely sure that this is what God's calling me to do. Whereas if it's other things, I'll act, right away because I had the feeling God was calling me to do something,
Right.
But I realized I wasn't 100% willing. But that was a grace in that moment that I had that realization. That was God reaching down to me saying, hey, I hear your prayer, but here's the truth about yourself. Here's the humility.
Right.
And so it was actually very beautiful because I was able to then say, okay, you're right, God. Actually, I'm afraid. And I just was very honest with Him. I'm afraid of praying this prayer. I'm afraid, God, you're going to ask me to do this.
Right.
And I don't want to. And you already know that. But help me with this because I need you. And that was just that was actually a very powerful moment for me in my prayer life. This is, several years ago.
Okay, so this right here dovetails perfectly into the next one. I want to pick this up.
Okay, that's the whole story. So
Okay, so it's perfect. So the next one is that He was obedient unto death. So martyrs, in this book, Humility of Heart, he talks about martyrs, and he talks about how martyrs, there's different types of martyrs, right? They're ones who was joyful.
Red martyrs and white martyrs.
Even ones that are they're joyful to go to their death. Like, I am dying for the Lord. I don't care if how they're killing me. I don't care how much I'm suffering. I am dying for the Lord. And then there were martyrs that were not necessarily excited about suffering.
Yeah.
They were not excited about dying.
Mm-hmm.
But they were going to do it because they stood for the truth.
I think St. Peter was that way. I don't think St. Peter was necessarily chomping at the bit to go and die. I mean, as the tradition goes, he was actually leaving Jerusalem when he encountered Jesus carrying a cross. This is the small t tradition, in that he said, "Jesus, what are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to die because you're leaving. And so I'm going to die in your place because you're leaving. I was calling you to come here, be here as a martyr, and you're fleeing the town."
I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, he had this encountered Jesus carrying a cross, and it was Peter's cross he was carrying, and he was heading into Rome, not Jerusalem, as Peter was leaving Rome. And so Peter, of course, was convicted by this encounter and went back and died.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily about whether you're just so joyful about embracing the suffering, but you understand that no, I'm doing this. It's the disposition of I'm making sure that I'm doing this out of the love of Christ. Because I think there's a lot of people who even there's a lot of Stoics in the past who will enjoy little different types of suffering, but they're not doing it out of love for the Lord. Mm-hmm. They're doing it. They're doing it for their own gratification of saying, look what I can do.
It's a pride.
Yeah. And so understand, you don't necessarily have to enjoy or be joyful about the suffering that you're going to do.
In fact, I don't know that if you're enjoying it, is it really suffering? I suppose that it still could be. If you are totally saturated with Christ, with charity, and if you burned with out of love for Christ, then you could actually enjoy the suffering.
And that's the next one: is embrace suffering patiently and obediently.
But if you're embracing it patiently and obediently, it still could really suck.
Sure, no doubt.
Yeah,
and it may not be something you want to do. Mm-hmm. But again, it goes back to: is it my will that I want, or is it Christ's will that I want? And maybe the reason why that I'm struggling with this is because I had some issue with pride before, or maybe not. But I mean, this is the thing that you have to think about is am I conforming? Is it because I want to do it, or is it because it's Christ's will?
Right.
Is it my will or his
will? Good question.
Okay, so the next one is confess our sins and faults.
Yeah, and I mentioned, I think this is a really big one. Examining your conscience. I think in the beginning, if you're saying, how do I grow? What's the first step? I think this might be the first step. Mm-hmm. Fear of the Lord, that's a difficult one, practically speaking. Fear of the Lord. Okay, how do I do that? How do I do fear of the Lord? You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things you kind of learn subtly over time, I think. It's not something that you can just say, this is how you do fear of the Lord. You just
I don't know.
Honor him and fear him, and you come to understand him. But I mean, practically things that you can action items.
I don't know if I agree with that.
You think fear of the Lord could be an action item?
Yeah, because I think that you can be you don't want to disappoint.
But here's what I'm saying is when it comes to examining your conscience, you can say, boom, I have done that today. I examine my conscience. Mm-hmm. It's something it's actually an action. Whereas fear of the Lord is more of a disposition that you learn, that you have. Now, you can maybe do a meditation that kind of brings you into fear of the Lord, but it's not, that's a little bit more, it's hard to just live fear of the, to just have it throughout the day. Whereas examining your conscience, you can say, boom, yes, I took action, I did that. You know what I'm saying? So I think from a practical standpoint, this might be first step. Learn to examine your conscience. And I'm talking to myself here because this is something that's can be very difficult, especially once you reach that point in your spiritual life where you stop committing mortal sins. And yes, that is a place that you will reach. I mean, it is very possible. It's not possible. You should do it.
Everybody's called to.
Like this is like the place where you stop committing mortal sins is very, very, very beginner in the spiritual life. Not to say that you'll never commit one again in your life.
Right.
I know, I'm very aware of the fact that I am capable of great sin if I fail in vigilance, but examining your conscience is something that's difficult for me to do. I just don't do it very well. I'll try, and I feel like a total idiot going to confession sometimes just because, like, these are the things I honestly, this is all I came up with. And I know that there's more, but it's only because I fail. So I end up confessing that I'm terrible at examining my conscience. And if I was better at that, I'd have a lot better stuff to tell you today. But this is just this is the best I can do right now,
Yeah.
But this is a very practical step in growing humility because it's, once again, thinking about yourself, like we talked about. Examining your conscience is specifically leaving everybody else. You're excluding every person in creation except yourself. You're not thinking about other people's sins. You're not thinking about what other people did today. I'm only thinking about me. And so, like, once again, this is how much our culture has misconstrued what humility is. Thinking about yourself less? No, I think it's thinking about yourself more. But thinking about yourself rightly. Because unless you do that, you'll never grow in humility. Because you don't ignore yourself. You need to know yourself. You need to know exactly who you are. So examining your conscience, maybe throughout the day. Okay, sorry.
Easier said than
that was long-winded, but
no,
that whole monologue was to me. I was talking to myself.
I mean, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
That's what this show's all about.
I know.
Everything that we've always said is like, yeah, listen, I'm really bad at this, so I'm going to talk about it, and like other people may also agree with this.
Yeah.
So the next one was be content with lowliness.
Yeah.
Which okay, so that goes right back to what I was talking about earlier with St. Paul when he was saying, like, listen, I know I have been given this knowledge. I know that this is the right way.
Yeah.
But even though you're not ready for this knowledge, you're not ready to your spiritual disposition isn't prepared for this knowledge. Like I feel that all the time when I'm reading the Summa.
Yeah.
I'm like reading this. I'm like,
See, when I think of St. Paul with this, but I think of the verses when he talks about boasting of his weaknesses. He talks about how if I will boast of my weaknesses, because it's in my weakness that I am made strong.
Yeah, because right after that he says he boasts, like, it's not because I'm boasting of my own weaknesses, because I'm boasting because Christ knows me. And because Christ knows me, and he knows how weak I am, and the only way I'm able to do anything is through him.
He says, I'm boasting of my weaknesses, because at the same time, you look at what he's accomplished. He's done much. But he says it's important that he boasts of his weaknesses, because in his weakness, he's made strong, because now all of a sudden it's in my weakness that Christ is now able to come and accomplish something. Because if I'm not weak, then I'm prideful.
Right.
Because I am weak.
Right. Okay, the next one is understand our mediocrity. That's
kind of the same.
Yeah. Keep the rule is the next one, which
this is Saint Benedict.
Saint Benedict's rule.
So he's writing this to his monks. Make sure to keep the rule.
The next one is silence and solitude, which we kind of discussed earlier.
Yeah, meditation. You encounter yourself once again.
If you haven't read The Power of Silence by Cardinal Sarah, that's read that.
Yeah. Pascal, he said that all of man's problems come down to the fact that he can't spend an hour in a room with himself.
Right. Number 10 is keep your peace in times of laughter, which I thought was very interesting.
That is interesting.
Because especially for guys, there are times where maybe inappropriate jokes, maybe something that offhand remarks that make you laugh. It goes back to this balance.
Keep your peace in times of laughter.
And to me, it just goes back to this idea of balance, of understanding who you are and understanding, like, maybe this isn't the time to be laughing. I don't know.
That is interesting. Okay.
That's just my
I mean,
don't
like,
know.
it seems like times of laughter are very peaceful anyway. I mean, like,
Well, there can be times where
that's why you're laughing. I mean,
maybe.
you don't laugh if it's not, like, if you try to tell a joke in the middle of, like, that moment when the king, like, gives some rigorous or, like, speech, like, let's go into battle, charge, and, like, you're going, yeah, running into battle. Like, if a guy next to you tells a joke as you're running into battle, it's not funny.
No.
I mean, are you going to laugh?
It could. I mean, I don't know.
It could be funny if you're, like, in a foxhole and you're about to die, and like hey, that could be like a moment for a really weird joke. Like, yeah, we're gonna die, but whatever. You try the chicken,
But yeah.
But that's not like.
No, my socks has holes in them.
Right? Yeah, I didn't think I'd die in brown sock.
Yeah.
Like, anyway. If it's not a peaceful situation, it's just not funny. You're not going to be laughter tends to be in peace. So I'm not sure what this means, but I'll bet it means something really good.
Better than what you even imagined.
Better, yeah.
Number 11 is speak calmly and modestly, and then number 12 is everlasting humility and meekness.
How do you grow in humility? Everlasting humility.
You should just be humble.
Number 12.
Yeah.
Have you tried number 12?
If you try to just be humble.
You know who didn't try number 12? Judas.
Yeah.
He didn't try number 12, everlasting humility and meekness.
Yeah.
You know what happened to him?
Yes, I do.
Read the Bible.
Right. So.
But speak calmly and modestly, that's really good. I think if you're looking for something left to do, like in Lent, if you want, like, hey, let's ramp it up here at the end of Lent, a good suggestion is don't speak first. Someone says something, hey, just pump the brakes before you respond.
Jim, what do you have to say?
Jim is the master at this.
Yeah, he is really good at that.
Yeah.
So.
But
No, I
just
That's a
hey,
good idea.
restrain your tongue.
Yeah.
I know that you want to say something.
I have things to say.
Don't. I'm not going to do that, but you can do it.
Right.
And especially if you and I are talking. You know what? Why don't you hold your tongue? I'll go first. For the sake of your humility.
I have a belt that's holding up my belt loops and my jeans, and I have the jeans that are holding up my belt loop. I don't know who's the real hero here.
Yeah. Is my belt holding up my pants, or my belt loops holding up my belt?
All right, I'm done. Are you good with that?
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
My head is sweaty and my body is cold.
Very good. That's 30 minutes.
I had to stop you just because we were gonna go too long. But it was good.
Yes.
It was really good.
Podcast people don't like it.
Oh. We have to call it a bit. I didn't get stuff.
Ed, you have to hit record.